Story of Saints. November 23rd is the feast day of Saint Columbanus. Columbanus was born around the year 543 in Leinster, Ireland. When his mother was pregnant with Columbanus, she had a dream of a son rising up from her womb, which led her to believe that her son would become incredibly bright and talented. As such, she nurtured him at home, giving him a high-quality education, and Columbanus grew up incredibly smart and handsome. Because of his intellect and good looks, women would flock to him everywhere he goes. But with the advice of a nun, Columbanus kept to himself, resisting the temptation of lust. At the age of 18, Columbanus felt a calling to religious life and told his mother that he wanted to join the monastery. As his mother was very protective of Columbanus, she would restrict him from going out, not wanting her incredibly bright and handsome son to leave her, but she eventually conceded to Columbanus. Columbanus first traveled to Leinster Ireland to study under Abbot Sinel, then went on to a monastery in Bangor under Abbot Comgall to live a life of prayer and asceticism, where he spent the next 30 years. At the age of 50, many countries in Europe was facing persecution and the destruction of monasteries due to the fall of the Roman Empire, which had previous supported Catholics. Ireland, being mostly isolated from the rest of the European Catholic churches, was safe from most of the turmoils in the rest of Europe. Seeing the need for a restorative effort, Columbanus, along with 12 other Benedictine monks, abandoned the stability of the cloistered life to continue east towards France. It was here that they met Saint King Gontran of France, who were fascinated by Columbanus's way of life, gifting him a large fortress, which the monks used to establish a school. It was here that the group established a new rule for the monk, which is a stricter and more austere set of rules for monks than the previous rule of Saint Benedict. Columbanus also introduced corporal punishment for sin, with greater severity for greater sins. He teaches that the best way to get rid of sin is by physically hurting you so you no longer do it again, just like how your parent used to hit you when you were disobedient. For a short period of time, this new rule became widely accepted in the West, mostly during the saint's lifetime due to his charismatic nature. During his missionary works, many established monasteries also rejected his doctrine, with one group even going so far as cursing and condemning the saint, saying, "If thou, sire, art, come hither to violate the discipline already established, or to destroy the dwellings of the servants of God, know that in heaven there is a just and avenging power. Thy kingdom shall be taken from thee, and both thou and thy royal race shall be cut off and destroyed on the earth." Saint Columban spent the next 22 years until his death at the age of 72 establishing more schools and monasteries around Europe. Columban was very charismatic, but also very passionate. One time when the saint went to Switzerland for missionary work, he saw many pagans worshipping a god named Woden, who they worshipped under oak trees. In anger, Columban trotted through the forest with an axe in hand, chopping down the trees and setting fire to pagan temples. Some of the miracles attributed to Saint Columbanus include taming a pack of wolves in the forest, pacifying an aggressive bear, multiplying food, and healing a blind boy. Because of his tendency to travel alone to various secluded places, he is recognized as the patron saint of bikers. Even though many of his rule for the Benedictine monks were reverted back to the traditional Benedictine rules to be more lenient and forgiving, including the removal of corporal punishment for sin, we must still credit the saint and his followers for establishing and preserving over 100 monasteries in Europe. As we honor the life of Saint Columbanus, let us remember to trust in God's plan. Even when it seemed at times like he's leading the church backward, let us remember that sometimes these radical changes are needed to preserve and build a stronger, more unified church.
In order to continue learning about a new saint every day, click the subscribe button below and ring the bell to turn on your notification. Thank you, and may God be with you always.